If you're wondering why you should have an ADHD friendly room, I'm going to tell you why it matters and also tips for making your room ADHD friendly. Now, when you have ADHD, it comes with a lot of different challenges. Maybe you put something down and you just totally forget that it's there, even though it was just a second ago. And you're now trying to find that thing and look for that thing. Or maybe we walk into the room and we're so distracted that we get interested in something else that we see, and then we forget what we came into the room for, and now we're looking at the other thing and not really going after the thing that we actually need. So when you do have an ADHD friendly room, it takes these challenges into consideration, and you're setting up your room, organizing it or decluttering it so they can help you with these different situations that are challenges to ADHD. And so what that means is when we have an ADHD friendly room, we just need to think outside the box and set the room a little bit differently, taking into account all the different things that someone with ADHD would need. Now, one of the biggest things with ADHD is that we have a tendency to forget things. Like we might put something in a closet, maybe in the back of the closet, and then we just forget that it's there. And if we don't really think about it, we won't even know that it's there until we go back and just happen to run across it at some point. Or we happen to put our cell phone or wallet or keys down somewhere and we just forget where they are. We just get distracted by something else, try to come back and look for them, and we don't know any place that they could be. So we spend all that time going around and searching for them. And while we do eventually find our keys, our wallet, or our cell phone, it's just the fact that we just didn't remember where we put it down. And usually it's in a place that we're just like, oh yeah, I remember now that why I put it there and why it's there. And so one of the key things we need to have in an ADHD friendly room is some way to help us remember things as to where they are, where they might be. So it's just easy to go into that room and find whatever we're looking for, or go to a section of that room or a closet or whatever, and then figure out, okay, I know this is in here somewhere, and I have a pretty good idea because I've set something up there to remember where that thing is. And one of the best ways to do this is to use color organization. You pick a color and then you associate it with whatever you want to. And that way, when you see that color, you'll automatically remember, okay, that's supposed to either go here because you have that section with the color, or you have a special box that is that same color, and then you associate, okay, I know what's in that box, or I know where this thing should be because the color is there. Or you can use just a basic label where you just write on it and stick it on something, and that's really good to use. Or even if you don't have a label, you can use sticky notes and just put a sticky note on something, and that serves as your label as well. Now, if you want something more permanent, then a sticky note may not stay on there for a very long time. The adhesive will just wear out at some point. So if you want something that's more permanent, then make sure you get regular labels that you can just put on that item or that section. And something else with ADHD, we tend to procrastinate, and that leads to us having things way too long. We've held on to it. We know we should get rid of it, but we just never get rid of it. It's still in our home. You have something broken, a broken chair, broken appliance, and you just have never gotten rid of it. Or you have something that's just out of style. Maybe you have some bell-bottom pants. And you just figure, I'm never going to wear these again, and they're just not my style anymore, but they sit in your closet. Or you just have something that you have gotten and you just never use it at all. You don't want to throw it away because it might be new, or you might think, hey, one day I'm actually going to use this random thing that I have. And all of these things in our home that fall into these categories become clutter. And so with ADHD, you want to make sure that you do make the decision to get rid of some of these things, or get rid of all of them, however you want to get rid of them. Whether you sell them, give them away, donate them, but they are all clutter. And look around in your home and see if you have things that fall into this category, and then think about, do I really want to keep this? Is it essential, or is it just clutter? And then you want to declutter those things, and then that's going to free up a lot of space that you can use for other things, and it makes your room more spacious and more comfortable as well. Or you just have something you're not ever going to use and you just keep it because you don't want to make the decision to actually get rid of it at some point. And so that is a major issue a lot of times, is that we're holding on to these different things. And something else to think about with procrastination, and generally it deals with laundry, is that a lot of times when we have our laundry done, we walk into a room, there's a chair there, we take the laundry and we don't fold it, we put it in the chair. Or if we have some dirty clothes, instead of taking them to the laundry room and washing them, we put them in the chair. And eventually, as you take more clothes out of the dryer and bring them into your room, and you've already had that pile on that chair there, what happens is you end up taking more clothes and piling them on the chair. And then eventually you have this big pile of laundry that is either dirty or clean, but you're not folding them and you're not doing them because you see the big pile of laundry. And so what I mean is, don't use a chair as a storage device. And that means don't walk into the room and put something in a chair instead of using it to sit in. If you have a chair in a room and you never are sitting in it and it's just there, then you may want to think about removing that chair out of the room so this situation doesn't happen. Now, this generally doesn't happen in the living room. It generally happens in your bedroom, because a lot of times in your bedroom, you may just have a chair there, but you may not ever use it. You may use your bed more to as a place to sit or something like that. And then the chair is there and it seems like a really good place to go ahead. Hey, it's not my bed. I can just move this to the chair and I'll get to it later. But the issue is, if later never comes because you just keep seeing that pile, and as you see it, you just keep saying, hey, I'm going to do it later. I don't have time to do it right now. It's a big pile of clothes. And so I'm just going to leave it there on that chair, and I promise I'll get to it later. And then you just never do. And so what you want to do is just make sure, if you are going to have a chair in your room, that you are actually going to use it for sitting, or you might want to get rid of the chair and put it into the living room or somewhere else where you know that you will not stop and put a pile of clothes on the chair. And another situation that's common to run into when you have ADHD, and also when you just sit something somewhere and you never move it again, is you end up with things that are just out of place that you just don't have a place for. Like, you bought it, you know that you wanted it at the time, it was a good purchase at the time, it was on sale, you get it home, and you just never find a place to actually put it. And then you realize you don't actually need it, but you just don't want to get rid of it, and you just can't take it back to the store at this point because it's just been too long. Or you end up buying something that is a duplicate of something you already have and you didn't realize it, and now you have 2 or 3 or 10 or whatever this thing is, and you don't need that many. And so instead of finding a way to get rid of it, you just end up keeping it because you just don't know what to do with it. You know you have too many, but you don't want to just throw it away, so it ends up in your home, and now it also is clutter. And you just might have something that you just don't have a use for at all, or it just doesn't go with the decor you have. It's just out of style. It just doesn't go with anything. And you've even planned to put it a certain place, but that place doesn't work out as well. And so now you just don't know where you're going to put it. And so it just sits and it becomes clutter in your home as well. So things like this, you definitely want to get out of the room or declutter or give to someone, but you don't want it in your home just taking up space, because now you get more stuff in your home and it gets more crowded and it gets more cluttered, and now you're wondering why your home is so cluttered. And some of these things can actually be decluttered, and that would help you have a more clutter-free home. And something else that's really important for an ADHD friendly room is to keep things to where you can see them. You want to make things visual. You don't want to have things behind something else. Like, you go up, you think, oh, I have some space back here, I'll put this back here, I will surely remember where it is. And then a day or a few minutes or weeks go by and you want to find that thing and you can't find it at all. And we put it somewhere different than where we remembered it was supposed to be. And now we've just lost that item. And one of the best ways to keep things visual and make it also that you can access them really easily is to just install shelves and take advantage of your vertical space. And that way you always have a way to access the item or get to it, but you always can see that item. Now, the thing about this is, don't get so much stuff on your shelf that is super duper crowded and then you can't see which thing is which thing, and it's all become clutter up there now. And so you want to make sure, if you do install shelves, that you actually space things out enough so that you can see them, but not so much that it gets cluttered. And something else that you can do is use clear storage bins or clear storage containers. And that way you can automatically look over to wherever it is and see what is inside. And it makes it so much easier to find something if you have no idea where it is and you know that it's in some of these bins somewhere. Then at least you can have a quick glance over there and see, is it in this one or that one, or is it in neither of these? And do I need to go look somewhere else to actually find it? And now one of the best things for ADHD is to break things down. And you can apply this to an ADHD friendly room by actually designating different sections for different activities in your room. And that way it's going to make it much easier to remember where you go to do certain things and what needs to be in that certain area and where things are in general, so that if you're looking for something, you can automatically go to that place and see if it's there, or you automatically know if it's not there, then you need to go find it and bring it back to this area. But the reason that you do this is because you want to be able to quickly remember where something is, which place is for which thing. And that's going to make it much easier to also, when you are doing your decluttering and cleaning and everything, you can also then designate different sections for you to actually start your cleaning and start your decluttering. And so, for example, how would this look if we try to break it down in different sections? You may have a section for your workout. You may have a section to go and have your coffee station right there. You may have a section to go if you're in school to go and study. You may have a section that's just for your work, whether it's a room or a side of a room, section of a room, wherever. You just designate that place for that specific activity. And that way, you know that when you're getting ready to do something, you go to that specific place. And also, the really cool thing about this is that you can make a certain section a certain size. And so now you have boundaries like, hey, I have this section, this little section is for this specific thing, and everything needs to fit inside this section for that specific activity. And so then if you get to the place to where that place and section is getting so cluttered, then you know that you need to go in and start decluttering things and throwing things away and figuring out, okay, what is the essential things that I need? And so this is all done just by breaking things down and having specific places for specific things. And the cool thing is, this not only works for sections of rooms, but it also works for drawers as well. You get a drawer divider, you put it inside of a drawer, and you make different sections of that drawer. Maybe you have socks and shirts and jeans or whatever within that drawer, but each thing has a specific section in that drawer. You can see where they are divided, and that makes it so much easier to find whatever is needed in your drawer, or to say, hey, you know, this is not going to fit in this section, so I need to move it to a different drawer, and then divide that drawer up as well. And something else we really need to think about when we have an ADHD friendly room is we want to feel comfortable. We don't want to walk into the room and then feel like it's so cramped that we can't get comfortable at all. We are just in this cramped room. It's anxious. We see all the clutter around, we get overwhelmed, and it just doesn't feel like a place that we want to be at the time. And so with that, you want to make sure that this is the reason you organize a certain way. This is the reason you declutter and get the clutter out of the room, so you have more space, so it feels more inviting, so it feels like, okay, I can be in this room and it's going to be very comfortable. Because if you are in a room and there's just a lot of clutter in that room and you have to try to go to bed and go to sleep in that room, it's going to be very hard for you to go to sleep in that room because you just can't get relaxed. You can't get comfortable in that room. And so what's going to happen is it's going to make it much harder for you to actually get to sleep. And with ADHD, it's already an issue trying to get to sleep. Like, we just don't get a lot of sleep in general. And then if we have a room that just doesn't feel comfortable, it's going to be even harder for us to go in and get to sleep as well. And so if you're in that situation with a room like that, then one of the best ways to get started with decluttering is to do the 12-12-12 challenge. What you do is you donate 12 items, you get rid of 12 items, throw them away. And also you go through and find 12 items in your home and find a place for each of those 12 different items. And at the end of the challenge, you'll have things in the proper place and you'll have gotten rid of 24 different items, which can make a big difference in how the room feels when you walk into it and when you are actually in the room. Something else very important to know when you're doing an ADHD friendly room is we hate change, but we also like change. Now, let me explain. What I mean is that if we have a room set up and it's awesome, you know, we've got everything in the right place, then we want that room exactly the way that we set it up. Everything is in that room in a strategic place, and it may not look just how someone else, when they walk in and they say, well, that looks out of place, that looks out of place. But to us, it looks exactly the way we want it to. Yeah, we might have a random bowl that's on this counter and it just seems out of place. Like everything else is like looking pretty good, but there's just a random bowl there. And someone comes in, puts that bowl up or puts it in the dishwasher, but they don't know that we use that bowl to put our keys, our phone, and our wallet in. And we may have just started that activity that we're going to be like, hey, we're going to make sure that we have this actual place. And at some point, I'll get an actual container for all this. But for right now, I'm going to use this bowl. And so now when someone comes in and moves that bowl, now you've messed up our whole system of why that bowl was there in the first place. So if we have something set up in our room, then there is a specific reason generally for it and why it works for us, even though it doesn't work for somebody else. But on the other hand, we might set up a room and it's just looking perfect the way we want it. Everything is working good. And then 5 days or 2 weeks or 6 weeks later or 6 months later, we'll be like, you know what? I'm going to change this whole thing around. And so now that perfect place that we had set up before, we want to make it something different. I've done it. I've been up and just looked at my room and been like, hey, you know, at 1 o'clock in the morning or maybe early on a Saturday or whatever, I should look and say, you know what? I want to change this around. I'll start moving furniture and change all my whole room around just because of the fact that I want it to look a little different, or I want to change some things because I know these things will help it be better for me. That is the reason why I say we hate change, but we also love change. And sometimes we just don't know when the feeling's gonna strike us that we want to change something in our room. But if we have it set up, we want to make sure that that is not changed until we figure out how and when and where and what we want to change. And now you know why ADHD friendly rooms matter in some tips, but there are more tips as well about how to make an ADHD friendly room. And you could watch that video right here.